Imagine for a moment just stepping off a mountainside. But you're not falling, you're soaring silently,
Yeah.
Just the wind, incredible views all around.
Sounds almost dreamlike, doesn't it?
Exactly. But for millions, it's very real. And it's part of this market that's, you could say, literally taking off the global paragliders market.
Mm-hmm.
So for this deep dive, we're pulling out the key stuff from excerpts from Global Paragliders Market, Soaring Trends and Forecasts. This came from the Market View podcast, powered by Cognitive Market Research.
Right. Good source.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to unpack the important data, the trends, some might surprise you, and the forecasts for this market. We're looking from 2021 right through to 2033.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
How big is this market?
Right.
Really? And where's it headed?
Well, it's probably quite a bit larger than most people would guess. Just to give you the sort of top-level view straight off,
Yeah.
the revenue was already over $3.3 billion back in 2021.
Wow, okay, $3.3 billion.
Exactly. And the forecast shows this really impressive growth path. It hints at the actual scale of this, which, yeah, often feels like a niche activity, but the numbers say otherwise.
So it's not just niche then. Let's get into those global figures.
Okay, so diving into those headline global numbers, like I said, about $3.37 billion in 2021.
All right.
But this is definitely a market on the move. Projections show it climbing to nearly $4.3 billion by 2025.
Okay, so that's $1 billion jump pretty quick.
Yeah, and then it really picks up altitude, projected to reach almost $6.9 billion by 2033.
6.9 billion.
Yeah. Now that works out to a healthy compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of just over 6.1%.
6.1%.
Right. So for you listening, this means you're looking at consistent, pretty robust growth year after year. It indicates, strong demand and a really vibrant market.
Those numbers are, they're definitely striking, especially when you see that trajectory. Like you said, it's not just steady. It feels like it's really picking up speed.
It is accelerating, yeah.
Which makes you wonder, geographically, where is this growth really concentrated? Is it everywhere, or are there hotspots?
That's a great question. And yeah, there are definitely regional stories here. If we break it down, North America currently has the strongest position.
Okay.
The market there generated over $1.34 billion in 2021.
Just North America, over $1.3 billion.
Yep. And it's expected to expand to about $1.65 billion by 2025, and then eventually hit near $2.5 billion by 2033. So, really consistent, strong expansion there.
And I guess within North America, the U.S. is probably driving a lot of that.
Absolutely. The United States is definitely leading the charge.
Yeah.
Its market was already pushing $1 billion in 2021. $995 million to be precise.
Wow.
Forecasted to hit close to $1.8 billion by 2033.
Okay. Huge share.
Huge share. But Canada's significant too, moving from over $233 million in 21 to a projected $462 million by 2033.
Right.
And interestingly, Mexico starts smaller, about $112 million in 2021, but shows really rapid growth. It's projected to more than double, hitting $250 million by 2033.
Interesting. So Mexico's growing fast.
Yeah, it really speaks to the broadening appeal across the whole continent.
So North America's leading. What about Europe then? You always kind of associate Europe with mountains, outdoor sports.
Definitely.
Is it showing that same kind of vigor?
It absolutely is. Europe represents a very significant slice of this market. In 2021, the market there was around $940 million.
Okay, almost $1 billion itself.
Almost. It's projected to reach nearly $1.18 billion by 2025, and then a pretty substantial $1.84 billion by 2033.
Right. And who are the big players there?
Well, several key countries, Germany, for instance.
Sure.
Market was about $190 million in 2021, expected to nearly double to $348 million by 2033.
Okay.
The UK follows pretty closely, also showing strong growth from $158 million up to $278 million forecast for 2033. Then you have France, $144 million in 21, projected to reach $260 million. Italy, set to expand from $87 million to $167 million. And Russia and Spain also show really impressive growth. Their markets are basically on track to more than double by 2033 as well.
So a lot of strong European markets there.
Definitely.
And it's probably not just those main ones, right? There are others contributing.
Exactly. You've got smaller but still notable shares coming from places like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg.
Yeah, the Alpine countries, Scandinavia.
Yeah. And then the collective rest of Europe, which covers a lot of different markets, that segment is also expected to more than double. It was about $74 million in 2021, projected over $165 million by 2033. So really widespread adoption across Europe.
Okay, so North America strong, Europe very strong. What about Asia Pacific? We often see huge growth stories there.
Ah, yes. Now, Asia Pacific, or APAC, the growth here is, well, it's quite dramatic, arguably the most exciting trend for you to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Revenues were around $681 million in 2021. They climbed to $915 million by 2025. And then they effectively doubled to $1.65 billion by 2033.
Doubling. Wow.
Doubling, yeah. It just indicates a very, very rapid embrace of the sport across those economies.
Okay, who's leading the charge in APAC?
Well, within Asia-Pacific, China leads significantly. Revenues there, about $226 million in 2021, are forecasted to approach $600 million by 2033.
Huge growth in China.
Massive. Japan is also a major player. $139 million back in 21, growing to almost $300 million.
Okay.
And India is another real standout. It shows particularly rapid growth, going from $83 million in 2021 to over $232 million projected for 2033. That's nearly tripling.
Tripling in India. Okay. This really shows, doesn't it, how global the interest in paragliding has become. It's stretching way beyond, the traditional European or North American spots.
Absolutely.
So beyond China, Japan, India, who else?
Yeah, you've also got South Korea, Australia, Singapore showing consistent increases. The whole Southeast Asia region as a block is rising fast from about $71 million in 21 to over $177 million projected by 2033. And we're seeing growing interest in places like Taiwan and, the rest of the APAC markets too. It's broadening out.
Okay, that's really comprehensive.
Yeah.
Are we covering the whole globe here? What about South America, Middle East, Africa?
Yep, the report covers those too, showing the complete global spread. So South America, the market was about $155 million in 2021.
Okay.
Expected to nearly double to $337 million by 2033. Brazil leads that region, over $62 million in 2021. Then you've got Argentina, Colombia following. Shows that growing enthusiasm there too.
Right. And the Middle East?
Middle East saw about $148 million in revenue in 21, projected to increase to over $330 million by 2033.
Also more than doubling?
Also more than doubling. Saudi Arabia holds the highest share there. Started at $57 million, projected to hit over $131 million by 2033.
Okay.
And places like Turkey, UAE, Egypt, Qatar, they're all showing strong upward trends as well, contributing to that regional growth.
Interesting. Okay, last one, Africa.
And finally, Africa. Its Paragliders Market was over $104 million in 2021, expected to reach nearly $210 million by 2033, so doubling there too, roughly. Nigeria actually led in 2021 with over $29 million, forecasted to reach $61 million. South Africa followed closely, almost $40 million in 2021.
Wow.
So as you can clearly see, this is truly a worldwide market. Significant growth pretty much everywhere you look.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which, raises that important question. We see the numbers, they're impressive, but beyond that, what's actually fueling all this widespread, consistent growth?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the core insight we need to get to, right?
Yeah.
For someone listening, maybe curious about what drives a market like this, one that seems kind of specialized. What are the basic forces pushing it forward?
Well, the source points to three key drivers, and they really they mesh together nicely to explain this global picture.
Okay, what are they?
Firstly, there's just the significant rise in adventure tourism globally. People are actively seeking out more unique, kind of thrilling experiences.
Yeah, it's getting away from the everyday.
Exactly, something memorable. And paragliding, well, it fits that bill perfectly. Secondly, we're just seeing increasing participation worldwide in outdoor sports and activities generally.
Right, that whole trend of getting outdoors, active lifestyles.
Precisely. Connecting with nature, that sense of freedom, it taps into that broader shift.
Okay, so adventure tourism, more outdoor activity. What's the third one?
The third one, and this is, well, arguably really crucial for the consistent growth we're seeing. It's the continuous technological advancements.
Ah, the gear itself.
The gear itself, materials, design, it's constantly improving. Paragliders are getting lighter, stronger, and very importantly, significantly safer.
Safer. That makes a big difference, I bet.
A huge difference. That improved safety combined with, perhaps easier handling, it just broadens the appeal. It makes the sport feel more accessible to a much wider range of people, not just extreme athletes. And what's really fascinating is how these things weave together, you know? You've got this growing desire for adventure meeting a safer, more user-friendly way to actually have that adventure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's a mix of like lifestyle changes, people wanting more exciting, active experiences, and the innovation making it easier and safer to actually do it.
Exactly. That combination is really powerful for market expansion.
That's a really clear picture. Yeah. So there you have it, our deep dive into what turns out to be a surprisingly large and rapidly growing global paragliders market.
Mm.
From North America's strong base to that dramatic doubling we see coming in Asia Pacific.
Mm.
It's clear this market is, well, soaring, driven by that global thirst for adventure and, crucially, the constant innovation in the tech.
Absolutely.
It really underlines, I think, the value for you listening of digging into the specific data for a market.
Mm-hmm.
You get a much clearer picture than just relying on, general assumptions about niche sports.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And maybe it leaves us with a final thought, something for you to ponder. Given this really significant growth, fueled by things like adventure tourism and tech advances,
Yeah.
what other, perhaps less obvious niche markets might be quietly getting ready for a similar kind of boom over the next decade? And maybe more importantly, what signals should you be looking out for to spot them before they really take off?
Hmm. That is a really interesting question to think about. What's the next paragliding market, so to speak? Food for thought.
Mhm.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're actually taking off into the skies, literally. We're going deep into the global paragliders market. So get ready for, well, the highs, the lows, and the trends shaping this pretty unique industry.
Yeah, it's a fascinating space. And just so you know where we're getting our info, our flight plan today is based on detailed findings from cognitive market research.
Right.
And our mission, basically, is to unpack the key dynamics for you. Look at what's driving growth, what challenges are out there, and maybe most interestingly, what exciting trends are reshaping the future.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What's really fueling the steady liftoff in this market? I was looking at the report, and it seems like a big part is just this growing interest in adventure sports, recreational stuff.
That's definitely a huge piece of it. You're spot on. What cognitive market research really highlights is this shift. It's not just, oh, let's try paragliding once. It's becoming more of a lifestyle, particularly for, younger consumers, people wanting these adrenaline experiences, being outdoors.
So less weekend getaway, more integrated lifestyle.
Exactly. That cultural shift is really translating into more people actually getting into paragliding, especially in those, beautiful scenic spots, mountains, coasts.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess that ties into tourism growth too,
Yeah,
especially in those kinds of regions.
absolutely. Governments and tourism boards, they're increasingly seeing the value in adventure tourism. So you see paragliding becoming almost a staple activity in travel packages.
Yeah.
The Alps, the Himalayas, coastal South America, places like that.
Right. It becomes a draw.
It does. There's a rising demand for safe but exciting airborne sports, and paragliding fits that bill perfectly for many destinations.
Okay, so we have the lifestyle shift, the tourism boost. What about the gear itself, the technology? I mean, innovations must be making it more appealing, maybe safer, more accessible.
Oh, definitely. This is where the cognitive market research findings get really interesting. The tech side is moving fast. We're seeing manufacturers using these incredibly lightweight, high-strength fabrics, like new Vectran-reinforced materials.
Vectran, okay.
Yeah, and some top wings, that's shaved off maybe, nearly 15% of the weight in just a few years.
Wow, 15% is significant.
It really is. It makes a huge difference, especially for things like hike and fly, where you're carrying the gear, so it enhances performance, but crucially, it also improves safety standards. That's paramount.
And it's not just the wing fabric, I assume.
No, not at all. Harness design is another area. They're more ergonomic now, much safer. Integrated reserve systems are getting more efficient, easier to deploy if needed. And braking systems, too. They give both beginners and pros, frankly, just greater confidence and control up there.
Right, that control aspect must lower the mental barrier quite a bit.
It does. Makes it feel less daunting.
So, better gear, more interest.
Hmm.
But you need training for this,
Yeah.
right? It's not like riding a bike. Are we seeing enough training infrastructure keeping pace? More certified schools popping up?
Yeah, the data shows a pretty significant surge there, too. Certified paragliding schools are becoming more common globally, and that's vital. Good guidance isn't just about safety, although that's obviously number one.
Sure.
It's also about converting that initial spark of interest into, a long-term passion. Good schools equip people properly, build their confidence. That turns learners into enthusiasts, into actual customers who stick with the sport.
Okay, so lots of positive momentum, lots of updrafts, you could say. But like any flight, there's bound to be some turbulence, right? This market isn't without its challenges, is it?
No, absolutely not. And cognitive market research points to a few key ones. Probably the biggest headwind is the cost. The initial investment can be quite high.
The gear, the training.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
good quality paraglider, your helmet, reserve parachute, all the safety kit, plus professional training. It adds up. It can be pretty cost prohibitive, honestly, especially if you're just starting out or maybe only plan to fly occasionally. That's a real barrier.
Yeah, I can see that. And unlike some sports, you're completely at the mercy of the weather, aren't you? You need specific conditions, wind, visibility.
Totally. It's very weather dependent. And that leads to the seasonal nature of it in many places. If you live somewhere with long winters or unpredictable weather, your flying days might be pretty limited. That obviously impacts how much you use your gear, and it can dampen market growth in those areas. You can't just go whenever you feel like it.
Makes sense. And what about safety and regulations? Even with better gear, there are still risks, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. While gear has improved immensely, it's still an adventure sport. The possibility of accidents, of injuries, it still exists. And tied to that, you have the regulatory side, which can be tricky.
How so?
Well, aviation and airspace rules can vary wildly from country to country, or even region to region sometimes. Think about no-fly zones, commercial licensing, equipment certification standards.
Yeah.
It can get really complex for operators and even for individual pilots flying internationally.
Right, a patchwork of rules.
Pretty much. And one last thing the research highlights is accessibility, especially for city dwellers. If you live in a big urban area, finding suitable launch sites nearby can be tough. There's often just a lack of accessible natural landscapes. So for many urbanites, paragliding becomes an occasional thing requiring travel, not something you can do easily after work.
Okay, so cost, weather, safety, regulations, and access. Quite a few hurdles to navigate. But let's shift focus now. Look towards the horizon. What are the exciting trends? What's reshaping the future here?
Well, one really big trend is the growth in tandem paragliding.
Ah, where you fly with an instructor.
Exactly. These tandem flights are hugely popular, especially with tourists. It gives you the thrill, the experience, without needing the training or the big upfront gear investment yourself. It's created this whole booming market for rental gear and instructor-led services. And it's a great gateway. Some people try tandem and then decide to learn themselves.
That makes a lot of sense. It opens the door wide. And I guess technology continues to play a role in the trends, too. I mean, everyone seems to film everything these days. Action cameras, GPS.
Oh, absolutely. Modern pilots are definitely tech savvy. GoPros are almost standard for capturing those amazing aerial views. But it's also about safety and performance. GPS trackers are crucial for navigation, especially in remote areas, and for safety tracking. And variometers, the instruments that measure lift, they're getting super sophisticated. They integrate real-time thermal mapping, glide path optimization. It's like giving the pilot a digital sixth sense.
Wow. So it enhances the experience, but also safety and documentation.
Precisely. It adds this whole tech and social layer. People share their flights, their data, their videos. It generates buzz.
What else is trending?
Another key thing is the ongoing push for lightweight and compact equipment. We touched on lightweight fabrics earlier, but manufacturers are really focusing now on gear specifically for, say, solo explorers or hikers who want to combine activities, gear that's genuinely easy to pack, carry on a multi-day trek, and deploy quickly. That hike and fly segment is growing.
So making it easier to integrate into other adventures.
Exactly. It potentially broadens the user base quite significantly to outdoor enthusiasts who maybe saw traditional paragliding gear as too bulky before.
And what about the bigger picture? How does paragliding fit with overall travel trends, like sustainability?
That's a really interesting angle, and yes, there's a strong connection emerging. Paragliding is increasingly being positioned as a low-impact, eco-friendly activity. You're using wind, gravity. It aligns well with ecotourism principles.
Well, no engine noise or fumes?
Exactly, and cognitive market research notes that this resonates strongly with conscious travelers. Some areas, like parts of the Alps, are seeing really solid growth in paragliding tourism, partly by marketing it as a sustainable adventure. It taps into that desire for green tourism experiences.
What a journey. Okay, so from that initial liftoff, driven by, adventure seeking and smart tourism,
Yeah.
through the turbulence of costs and regulations to these really interesting trends like tandem flights, tech integration, and even sustainability. We've covered a lot of ground, or rather air.
Yeah, it's been quite the flight through the data. And, if you step back and think about it, what's really fascinating here is how paragliding, which maybe once seemed like something just for extreme adrenaline junkies, is actually evolving. It's becoming the surprising mix of personal exploration, serious tech innovation, and even sustainable tourism. It really invites us, I think, to rethink how we connect with nature and adventure today. It shows that even an ancient dream like human flight can keep finding new ways to capture our imagination.